Hi guys, Mr. Davis here, hope you're well. This is the next one of our lessons focusing on sociology of sport, and hopefully this is a nice straightforward one. But before we pick up the main content, let's just tackle a few knowledge recall questions, and it actually comes from section A of the exam, but it links in a little bit to what we're going to do today. So if you just take a moment to make sure you get an answer for each of these 4 questions, and I will pick it up again shortly. Just pause the video here and read these through, make sure you've got an answer written down. Okay, so first question, identify the name of the fatty plaque which builds up in the arteries. So if you're not doing enough exercise, you're being a lazy boy, what's going to build up in your arteries? The answer is, it's called atheroma. Remember we looked at atherosclerosis and things like that, and it's the atheroma, which is the fatty plaque that builds up in those arteries and causes lots of problems. Second question, identify the 2 types of cholesterol found in the body. So you can split this into 2. There's 2 types of carried cholesterol around the body, and you should have low density lipoproteins, which is the bad type, and the high density lipoproteins, which is good. And if you exercise, the more you exercise, the more high density lipoproteins you produce, and then that helps to get rid of the bad ones. 3 was identify 2 types of stroke you can suffer from, and the answer is, first one is ischemic, and that's where the blood clot stops the blood supply, and the second one, a little bit of a mouthful, but it's hemorrhagic, and this is where the weakened blood vessels going up to the brain actually burst, and that's obviously a lot more serious. 4th question, just a definition. What was the definition of hypertrophy? And hopefully you've got that hypertrophy is just essentially bigger, stronger, more pliable cardiac muscle. So pliable in really simple terms kind of means how stretchy it is. And if you've done a lot of exercise, your heart, which is a muscle made up of muscle tissue, gets bigger and stronger and is able to essentially stretch more. You have a greater strength of contraction. So just make sure that you've got the correct answer noted down in purple pen. If you need to there, pause the video, just make any corrections you need to, and then we'll pick it up again on the next slide. Right, so today's topic, like I said, a nice, hopefully straightforward one, because it links into a lot of things that we've actually covered previously. So top of your page, benefits of participation, and then the learning objective, I will learn how individuals can benefit from increased participation in sport and physical activity. A few key terms there, and we'll pick up some other key terms as we go through the presentation. And essentially, your main task, just to get you going, once you've got that key information down, just start to think, and you can do this just as a nice long list. Make a list of the benefits of participating in regular physical activity and exercise and sport. What are the benefits of participating? Just to help you along the way, consider the different elements which make up an individual's health, as well as some of the more general benefits to do with fitness, and possibly even beyond that, in terms of the benefits that that can have into society as a whole. So remember, this is primarily looking at it from a sociology perspective, but this particular set of questions will ask you some for some knowledge that links into stuff that we looked at in section A to do with health. So spend a bit of time doing that. Pause the video here. It's probably going to be a fairly long list. If you can, try and arrange it into sort of groups that we might have looked at previously. So if you think about what makes up an individual's health, that should help you just to sort of break down those comments that you can make there. Give yourself a few minutes to do that, see what you can come up with, and then we'll tackle each section one at a time. So just to get this all going all together, physical health to start with. So for the perspective of this particular part of the exam, they're just going to break health down into some different categories. It might be health in general that you're asked about, in which case you know, the world's your oyster. You can go for any of the different things that we're going to look at here. But if we just break it down initially into things about physical health, so you don't have to write these in any particular order, but you can tick them off on your list or add them on any that you've missed off. So healthier bones, healthier skeletal system, stronger bones, stronger muscles, improved cardiovascular endurance, improved cardiovascular system, stronger, healthier heart, reduced chances of coronary heart disease, reduced blood pressure, increased blood volume. All of these things are going to have a beneficial effect on your physical health. And at the top of the page here, I've just put this in partly just to remind me, in some of the questions, you're just going to be asked to identify physical or identify health benefits that are linked to increased participation in physical activity. But on some of the questions, you might be asked to explain them. And what you need to do for the explanation is actually just make a slightly more detailed point, essentially thinking about what the impact is of the initial benefit. So for instance, if you were looking at this one to do with the healthier bones and stronger bones as a result of regular exercise, that is more likely then to lead to a reduced chance of things like osteoporosis, which essentially is weaknesses in your bones and brittle bones. So you're more likely to damage your skeletal system. So it's the combination of the two. It's an increased strength of the bone, which is then going to result in a reduced chance of osteoporosis. Equally, if you have something like an increased cardiovascular endurance or an increased strength of your heart, that's more likely then that the impact of that is going to be an increased cardiovascular system will then lead to reduced coronary heart disease. So it's making sure that you can explain it that's going to get you the combination of the marks there. You may have other ones as well, but just take a moment to make sure you've got each of these things down. And if anything there you're not clear on, just go back to the very, very, very first set of notes that we made at the start of the year and just tidy up those notes to make sure you've got a good comprehensive list. The second part of this health, you could look at it from a mental perspective. Now, it's not likely in this part of the exam to really break it down into this much detail in terms of specifying whether it's physical, mental, or as we move forward into the other ones as well. But this just gives you the range of options of things that you can comment on. And some of these might be more relevant to particular social groups that you're going to potentially be asked about. So it's not necessarily just a question, an open-ended question about people in general. But for instance, it might ask you about, for example, disability groups. And some of the most significant benefits, yeah, there are physical benefits, but also potentially for that group, it's actually the mental benefits and the engagement with exercise is going to help them in that way. So from here, you've got things like, remember when we're talking mental, it's a cognitive thing that we're looking at, and that's the distinction between the mental and the emotional side of things. So you've got essentially just increased brain function there, but you've got better concentration, improved problem solving skills, increased ability to kind of manage tactics if you're involved in a game, improved creativity on this side, just a general improvement in management of day-to-day activities. All of those things are linked into health, and you could make a case for saying that the benefits that you're seeing here are as a result of regular physical activity. So just make sure you've got each of those things down there. And then we also looked at things like emotional health. Now, emotional and mental are often kind of merged together. But if you are going to make the distinction, you've got things like improved mood, increased relaxation, reduced stress, increased self-esteem, improved confidence, increased ability to kind of manage pain. And that's through the release of chemicals in the body like endorphins and serotonin and things like that. You don't necessarily need to go into the huge amount of detail on it, but it just shows you that this emotional side of things is all to do with your feelings and how you're actually how you're feeling about things. It's not so much to do with thought process and thinking and those cognitive skills that you might develop with the mental side of things. This is to do with very much about kind of your inner self and your feelings to do with things. Again, lots of different things to comment on here. Just make sure you've got each of those down. And this is just a little slide just to look through, just to kind of pinpoint some of the things which we mentioned here. Some of these things are particularly good that you could reference in terms of specific chemicals that are released when you exercise to help improve your emotional and mental side of your health. So just take a moment to note a few of those down. And then we've also got the social side of things. Now, the social health might actually be, might come up as a separate part of the question or a separate question altogether. So it's really important that you make the distinction here between these sorts of things that can be a benefit. So if you remember from before, you've got things like improved leadership here, increased ability to make friends. You've got the teamwork, and then you've got the communication side of things. Now, this one here about the friendship group is important because that one enables you to do that explanation. And in one of the exam questions that you might be faced with, and you'll see when you go through them after this, as I say, some of the questions will ask you to identify certain benefits, but you will also be asked to explain them. And in one question, it asks you to do that for physical things, but it also asks you to do it for the social elements as well. So the social side of things, if you broke that down, if you focus on the friendship element first, so socially, you're more likely to engage with other people, make friends, and as a result of that, these things will then spin off. So this is your two-part answer there. As a result of those increased friendship groups, you're then more likely to improve communication. You're more likely to improve your teamwork. You're more likely to develop those leadership skills. So that's the way to answer it. Focus initially on the friendship side of things, and then it can spin off into the other elements as well. Okay, one of the other things that you're going to be asked about the benefits of physical activity and regular exercise and sport is just directly to do with fitness. And this one's really straightforward because essentially all you need to do, as long as you say that it improves rather than just writing the word, just think of any fitness component. And then in this part of the exam, you're not likely to have to actually explain it. That might come more in the sort of skill development side of things about how these things might impact on skills. But just purely in terms of identifying elements of your fitness that might improve, you can even just say in general fitness and the benefits of that. But the easiest way to pick up the marks is just rattle through various different fitness components. So you've got, I always try and remember them through kind of the alphabetical order because that helps me make sure I don't miss out anything. So agility, balance, coordination, cardiovascular endurance. Which way am I going? Flexibility, power, reaction time. I've probably missed one. Muscular endurance, the different types of strength and speed. So you've got loads of different things. You don't have to comment on them all, but there's a huge range of potential options there. And in addition to that, you can also pick up marks, even though they're not fitness components, but you can comment on things like improved posture, which essentially is kind of how you sit and your stance when you stand up. So if you've got a poor posture, it might be that you slouch a little bit, your shoulders drop forward rather than kind of bringing your shoulders back and having a nice kind of proud stance. That's what your posture is, but that also has health benefits because people with poor posture are more likely to suffer from kind of aches and pains and bad back and things like that because you're putting pressure on joints that you don't really want to put the pressure on. So posture is one thing, but you can also comment on this, which is to do with body composition. Body composition is essentially, it's just a fancy word for essentially saying the shape and the makeup of your body. So what percentage of your body is muscle, bone, and fat? And if you've got a healthy body composition, it means that you will have probably lost some weight, lost some excess weight as a result of exercise. You've got a more toned body and an improved body shape. and that's obviously going to have health benefits. So there's a range of things that you can comment on there. Just remember, when it's asking you about fitness components, and then potentially posture and body composition as well. And then finally on this, just the additional benefits. So you might have got a chance to add in, yeah, we know all about the health benefits and can think of different physical, mental, social, emotional benefits, but there's also some additional benefits to the individual that spring out towards sort of the wider society. So one of them, and these are probably things that you might have not had previously, but add these to your list, because we're looking at it from a sociological point of view. It's important that you note these kind of social aspects down as well. So one of them is that you're going to have a more positive use of your free time if you're engaging in regular exercise. And while it might seem like a bit of a shift to say, you know, just because you're playing more badminton, it means that you're not going to commit crime, that's essentially what you pick up a mark for. So you're saying that individually, you're going to have a more positive use of your time. And as a result of that, you know, if you can do that across a large number of people, particularly groups of people that might previously have had, you know, little to do in terms of their kind of spare time and hanging around and just getting bored. And, you know, that's often what the excuse is for, particularly amongst young people, for just to kind of play up in society and end up getting involved in the wrong sort of thing. If you can actually engage yourself more positively, crime statistics are essentially going to fall down. It might seem like a bit of a leap, but that's essentially what you get the mark for. The other things are to do with employment. So if you're a healthier person engaging in regular physical activity, that's likely to mean that as a result of those physical and mental benefits, you're going to be more productive of work. You're going to have a better attendance at work because you're not going to have so much sick time, because you'll have improved that physical and mental side of your health. So you're not going to be feeling depressed, and you're not going to feel lethargic, and you're not going to, you know, always be suffering from issues with a poor immune system. So it's that idea that it's increased productivity at work, and you're more likely to attend work, and then as a result, overall higher levels of productivity once the whole workforce are in. That's that one. Then this one, essentially to do with the economy. So again, it's to do with participation and involvement and engagement with positive activities. If you're doing that, essentially it means that you're spending money on positive things, on healthy pursuits, and it's going to benefit yourself, but it's also going to have a benefit into the wider society, because money is being put into the economy for, you know, leisure spend rather than just wastage. So that could be something else. And then the ones at the bottom I've just added in because these ones might be particularly relevant to particular groups. Now you might get questions. There's often going to be questions. The groups that you're going to get targeted with are those individuals that might be disabled, women and kind of girls coming out of school, but also the ethnic minority groups. Those are the three groups that you're likely to get questions about in terms of improving participation in sport. So these ones focus on obviously the disability group, but you could also potentially, there's some generic comments here that you could use for other groups as well. So just take a look at these for a second, see if you can kind of work out what I'm thinking here. It's a little bit cryptic because you're probably not going to be able to work it out just from a few pictures, but just take a glance at them, see what you can pick up. So the first one here is to do with inclusion and kind of improving that level of inclusion, and where people feel like there aren't any barriers and people can play together and engage together. And that's a positive. It's a positive generally, but it's a specific positive that you could make for disability groups. What else have we got? This one is to do with breaking down stereotypes. So in society, it's not that just because you're in a wheelchair that you're not able to take part in sport, you're not able to engage with these activities. You know, it's very much breaking down that stereotype and adopting a positive "yes, I can" attitude. So yeah, that's that one, to do with breaking down the stereotypes. This one's to do with either improving or picking up new skills. So that's going to be a specific benefit for disability groups, but you could easily have that one for other groups as well. So the improvement in sport-specific skills, and then finally, opportunity to engage in sort of competitive sport, which is something that lots of people really like doing. But if you're a disabled person, that's something that you might potentially struggle with. But sport and physical activity offers you a pathway and a route into that sort of thing, which is ultimately going to be beneficial to individuals' health. So a range of different things there. Just make sure you've got each of those down, particularly these ones at the bottom to do with specific groups. So I'll just go through it again, just so we're crystal clear. Improved levels of inclusion, reducing or breaking down those stereotypes, improving sport-specific skills, and also increased levels of competition, so the improved ability to engage in competitive sport. And for now, that's pretty much it. That's all I really want to cover in this particular presentation. There's a set of exam questions that I'm going to attach to the homework as well. All should be pretty straightforward if you followed this presentation carefully enough. Just remember those ones where you're asked to explain something. You need to come at it from you can't just make a single comment. You have to look at the particular benefit of that initial what's the word I'm looking for? Benefit that you've looked at. So for example, the improved strength of the bones will lead to reduced chance of osteoporosis. So that's the way that you've got to look at it. Okay, there's one or two questions in there that you might have to think a little bit deeper on. I don't want to kind of give it all away and make it too easy, but yeah. And I'll share the mark scheme as well, so you can actually go through the mark scheme and Purple Pen your work with that. Okay, so hopefully you found that useful and interesting. It starts to get pretty interesting now. This unit, now we've got the kind of the basics of the boring terminology done. So hopefully this sets us up nicely for the rest of the week. Cool, guys, take it easy, and I shall see you shortly. Bye.